10,000 fearless on the move.
Let's go.
Deep in the delta where the willows grow, in the soil stained by the blood of my ancestors. Punch bowl voices call out to my soul for justice. The wicked will reap what they've sown. Spirit of Aziz is back on the rise. Soldiers in the delta kept it alive. Time to stand up, take our place in the sun. Understand the time and what must be done.
10,000 fearless on the move. 10K fearless. Mississippi. 10K fearless on the move. Mississippi. Sip.
Gotta make a move and take control. Have something we can call our own. So shine your light, help the people see that now is the time for us to be free. And if you waiting on the pie in the sky, you better wake up fast. They told you a lie, cause big fields await the wide awake man. Elijah's got the masses.
10,000 fearless on the move. 10K fearless. Mississippi. 10K fearless on the move. Mississippi. Sip. Injustice, we've had enough. All of our divisions we're breaking up. Destiny has been calling us. The spirit of the Most High is guiding us.
See, the time is now. What you waiting on? Quit shooting your brothers. Put your gun down. Come on. They got a cage waiting for you if you keep that up. Early graves coming to you. From that, can't raise you up. Now, Sister Ida B and Fannie Lou, check them out and you'll know what to do. But if you really want your enemy to be alarmed, read the final call. Follow Farrakhan.
10,000 fearless on the move. 10K fearless. Mississippi. 10K fearless on the move. Mississippi. Sip. 10K fearless. 10K fearless on the move. 10K fearless on the move. In Mississippi, Mississippi. 10,000 fearless on the move.
Yes, indeed. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you, and welcome to yet another edition of the 10K Fearless Podcast, 10K Fearless Tri-State Podcast. I am your host, Brother Abdul Shaheed Muhammad, and let me immediately begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. We bear witness to the oneness of God, the oneness of his prophets, and the oneness of the scriptures that were revealed through them to the whole of humanity. We bear witness that all communities serve one God. We may not understand him the same, but all of the prophets and all of the scriptures, Bible, Old and New Testament, Holy Quran, and wherever the word of God is found, proceeded forth from that single divine being through the mouths of his prophets. And he made those messages known according to the language and culture of the people from among whom he raised his prophets, his messengers, and his warners. Brothers and sisters, please allow me to greet you with the greeting words of peace in the Semitic language of all of the prophets of Assalamu alaikum. Those words mean, may peace be unto you. Yes, indeed, we're back again with the 10K Fearless Tri-State Podcast, and we are always prayerful, dear brothers and sisters, that we will share and disseminate information that will give us some guidance and information that can aid and assist us in our daily lives and to serve as guidance in these troubling times. And indeed, we are in some troubling times, and we got people coming on. I got somebody on here. Nuri said hello, and hello to you. And thank you for tuning in. Our audience is growing, and those who tune in to this podcast in the great state of Mississippi, really, you can reach us from wherever you are. If you have a smartphone and you download the Podbean app, we greatly appreciate you for coming on, and we would ask you to share this with your circle and those who are in your contacts. Now, wait a minute. Am I seeing this correctly? Oh, it says thankful. Thank you. We're going to get started here. But before we get started, we have some announcements, of course, we have to get to. We always have to highlight those. We always want to highlight those who support this podcast. And we certainly thank you for supporting this podcast. And those are our businesses. And if you want to be highlighted on the 10K Fearless Tri-State podcast, we can create a jingle for you. If you want information about that and how that can be done for a small fee, give us a call. You can, better yet, email us at dremuhammad1@gmail.com. That's DRE Muhammad1@gmail.com. We will announce that again before we get out of here this evening. But let's get to the ground rules that we like to lay before we begin our discussion and conversation. And before I say that, we have a guest tonight. We have the director of the Ida B. Wells Museum in Holly Springs, Mississippi. She is the director of that museum. Her name is Reverend Leona Harris. She is a fireball, and she's full of energy, and she's very outspoken now. She loves her some Ida B. Wells. She loves her people, and she is, I call her a freedom fighter. Miss Harris, she will be on with us at about 1:30. But before we get to her, and you are free to call in after she gets off. Those who would like to call in, we'll entertain you this evening if we have time. But before we get to that, let's lay these ground rules that I call axioms. And I have one from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, or the first one from him, where he says, "He who gives you the diameter of your knowledge prescribes for you the circumference of your activity." We live in the information age, where information is far more readily available today than it has ever been. But in addition to that, we live in the age of cynicism. You know, people are quite cynical nowadays, but we need better information sources and more avenues for good information, because the thought police is always at work, dear family. The second one from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, where he gave us the definition of a slave. And he defined it as a slave is one whose power and authority is ruled over by another, and whose sphere of freedom is limited according to the wishes of his master. Very, very powerful definition in my estimation. And the third one from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that I love to use, it's very instructive for those of us who strive for excellence, those of us who strive to do something meaningful in life and make a meaningful contribution towards the evolving cause of human progress, because that sends you upward. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said these words. He said, "When you see men fall, don't laugh, learn. Learn because you're on your way up, and the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation, nor from the weakness that will cause us to stumble and fall. When you laugh at somebody else's fall, white or black, rich or poor, your enemy or your friend, you're laughing and opening a way for your own demise when you do that. Because to laugh and not learn, to make mockery and to not understand, is to make the same mistake yourself." Very instructive for those who strive for excellence. So we should not make mockery of someone else's stumble, fall, or demise. Very, very instructive. And I got one for the youth tonight. I want to share one with you from our dear sister. May Allah be pleased with her work, and her legacy lives on. That's our dear sister, student minister, Dr. Ava Muhammad, in her book, A New Way of Life. She said these words, quote, "The greatest disservice black people do to our youth and to our children is to rob them of their innate belief that all things are possible. Children believe that all things are possible. This allows them to create the world they want for themselves. You rob your children of being able to create because they are born to live in a world you haven't seen. That's very, very powerful as well. So there you have it. That lays the groundwork for us tonight. We're going to break away in just a moment here. We're expecting the farm report to come in from our brother, William Muhammad. I want to thank our brother for keeping us abreast of what's in the ground of good food that's organic and it's not GMO, genetically modified organisms. We thank Brother William. He'll be on in about 4 more minutes from now. But I want to send some shout outs and thank everyone for tuning in. Well, of course, we want to communicate with our sister locations all the way down in Hattiesburg with Brother Kazim Muhammad, coming up north a little bit to Greenville and Greenwood. Greenville, Student Minister Larry Muhammad and the Believers there. And, of course, Student Minister Basil Muhammad and the Believers in Greenwood, Mississippi. And coming on up further north, we get to Jackson, Mississippi. Actually, it's a little south. I came up too far. Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of the state of Mississippi, where our state minister, the mosque there, number 78, Student Minister Abram Muhammad and the believing community in Jackson, Mississippi. We'll come on up north past Greenville and Greenwood again to Tupelo, Mississippi, the newly established study group under the leadership of Student Minister Conway Muhammad and the Believers there in Tupelo, Mississippi. And, of course, you land right here at 165 North Memphis Street in Holly Springs, Mississippi, the Holly Springs, Mississippi Study Group and the Believers here that support this podcast. Thank all of you so very much for your continued support and your inspiration, and we will continue to march forward, for the race is not to the swift nor the battle to the strong, but he and she that endureth to the end. Because had it been a near gain and a short journey, all would have gone forth, but the hard journey was too long for them. So as our brother Nipsey Hussle says in L.A., the marathon continues. We're going to take a quick break, brothers and sisters, and we're going to acknowledge those who always acknowledge us, who aid and assist us in what we do here. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
20 past 12, chilling in the studio, taking over the world. Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. I come in peace, I don't mean you no harm. I say assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
What's your source for truth in news reports?
Justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Where do you turn for non-corporate driven news that's fair and balanced?
No shoot. No shoot. No shoot.
Subscribe to the Final Call News, your #1 free and independent news source that delivers hard-hitting national and international news coverage of today's political, economic, and social issues. To subscribe to local home delivery, call us at area code 662-252-8999. That's 662-252-8999. Visit our website at www.finalcall.com. Taste the difference. Taste Supreme. Enjoy our 100% natural Supreme spring water with natural calcium and magnesium, but zero fluoride and zero chloride. Our bottles are BPA free. Order yours today Call us at 800-573-8033. That's 800-573-8033. Or visit us online at www.supremespringwater.com. Live supreme. Be supreme. Drink supreme. Supreme Spring Water. 801 Joseph E. Boone Boulevard, Northwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30314.
The Urban Indulgence Bath and Body Boutique. At Urban Indulgence, we pride ourselves on offering quality, effective skincare. Handcrafted with plant-based, skin-loving ingredients, our soaps and body butters will give you luxurious lather and ultimate moisture. Experience the Urban Indulgence at 3314 Poplar Avenue in Memphis, 3 blocks west of Poplar Plaza, or shop with us online at theurbanindulgence.com. theurbanindulgence.com.
I went astray, turned my back on the law. Wanted fortune and fame, trying to be a rap star.
And we are back live here at the 10K Fearless Tri-State Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Brother Abdul Shaheed Muhammad. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And in about a minute or two, I should be hearing from somebody because I got a farm report coming up here. Let's see. Hold on. Did he? Oh, no. Yeah, he's on. He's going to give us a shout in just a moment. Brother William Muhammad, we want to thank our brother William Muhammad, and give him a round of applause as well, and thank him for his continued support of this podcast and the work that he's doing with our staple goods and the farm report and all of the food that's being grown down south of us. He should be calling us in just a moment. And until he does, brothers and sisters, this guest that we have for tonight, our sister, Reverend Leona Harris, she's okay. Here my brother William is. Let me go on and let him in. There he is. He's I got you in, Brother William, on the dash. Well, let's do it the other way. How about this way? Assalamu alaikum. Hold on just a minute, but let me get you on. There you are. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam. How you doing?
I am well, my brother. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes on. Brother William is coming with the farm report, the 10K Fearless. What you got for us, Brother William? I understand, man, you got some stuff that's been harvested and you got some prices for people that may want to purchase.
Yes, sir. We're looking to harvest real soon. The weather didn't allow us to be able to get out there and work like we wanted to because we had some severe raining going on, so the field right now is kind of muddy.
Okay.
But the products were looking pretty good the last time I was out there. But I was given a price list of things that people may be interested in purchasing when it's time to harvest them, which should be real soon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We had the tomatoes, which are going for $30 for a 5-gallon bucket. We had the yellow squash, $25 for 5-gallon bucket. The okra, $25 for 5-gallon bucket.
Wow.
Cucumbers, $20, 5-gallon bucket. Pole beans, some people call string beans, $25, 5-gallon bucket. We have peppers as well, $10 for 1 gallon. And we're also looking to have eggplants, cabbage, and millers with permits.
Man, that sounds like a good list. I'm going to make sure I get I know my wife, brother, she's going to be, look, we need to get A, B, C, and D. So, Brother William, when that is harvested, how can the people, or who should we call, or what is the contact to make these orders for those who would like to get those items?
Okay, well, up in the northern area, I would be the contact. And my number is 662-425-2646.
Okay.
So if anyone is interested in purchasing, they can contact me directly on my cell phone. That, once again, 662-425-2646.
Oh, praise is due to Allah. The God is always good. So there you have it, dear family. The farm report from our brother William Muhammad, who's all the way down there in, what's that, Louisville, Brother William, is where you are right now?
Yes, sir. I'm in Louisville. Yes, sir.
Man, that's pretty good little distance away now, but he can make those items available all the way up here in Holly Springs in the Marshall County area. So let's give our brother, thanks again, Brother William. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Take care of yourself. Thank you. That was our brother William Muhammad, and we certainly thank our brother for giving us that information, valuable information. As food prices begin to soar, those kinds of avenues whereby we can access food will become more and more valuable, brothers and sisters. We can't be like the grasshopper. We need to be like the ant. Anybody that knows what that means in nature, see, the grasshopper, when it gets cold, he never prepared for the winter, so they die out. But the ant, as the scripture says, thou sluggard, study the ways of the ant and become wise. The ant makes preparation. He is always busy. And that is the nature of every human being, to busy itself seeking the bounty of God that's been put here on the earth for the sustenance of every living creature. So we as black people particularly, we have to accept that responsibility and serve ourselves first, because charity begins at home and then it spreads abroad to the broader communities and others, human beings that are in need. Okay, again, I want to send some shout outs to also Care Now for the Juneteenth celebration that just passed. This past weekend, it was a beautiful celebration. It was well attended. It was kind of hot. It was a little warm. We had words to say. And we wanted to talk about Juneteenth in its proper context, and how the Emancipation Proclamation really applied. We are hopeful that the message we attempted to convey to those who were in attendance was received warmly. The vibe I got, and some of the people that I talked to, they appreciated what we had to share on Juneteenth and about Juneteenth and the Emancipation Proclamation. Brothers and sisters, we need to understand and see those historic events in their proper context and in the light of historical truth, because there are those who are always want to skew and sanitize what happened to black people. No, let's look at it for what it is. There are those who don't want anything about what has happened to black people to be taught nowhere near public schools, but they say it's part of American history. They teach American history in school, but we're not prominently or barely even mentioned in the textbooks that go into the schools. In fact, they're changing what happened to us from being slaves. They're calling us immigrants. Wow. So we need to understand this, and we need to control the narrative, lest what happens to us be erased and assigned to the dustbin of history. So the Emancipation Proclamation, brothers and sisters, did not free us. No, the Emancipation Proclamation did not end slavery. It ended a form of slavery, but it didn't end slavery. Slavery was simply reworded, repackaged, and redeployed in the form of a constitutional amendment. And that constitutional amendment was the 13th Amendment, where it reads, quote, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So there's an exception. So that says slavery still exists under certain conditions. And I was listening at a brother who said that he picked cotton while he was locked up, was forced to do it. So we need to understand that. And in addition to that, not only did that 13th Amendment apply, those who are the lawmakers, they began to make laws and city ordinances based on black codes and Jim Crow laws and the war on drugs and the 3 strikes law and felon in possession of a handgun, redlining, environmental racism, poor schools and poor living conditions. Essentially, they socially engineered our communities in such a way it would increase the likelihood that we would get involved in criminal activity. Now, once you get involved in criminal activity and you get locked up, you've been duly convicted, so now they can make you a slave. And that is what's happening to us and has happened to us in mass. The most locked up segment of the population in these United States of America is black people, black men in particular. And that's not by mistake, dear family. The research The receipts show that it is definitely by design. So this is why conversations with people like Reverend Leona Harris, this is why understanding Juneteenth and what happened to Dr. King in its proper historical context is so important. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us, first, history, above all our studies, is the most attractive and best qualified to reward our research, as it develops the springs and motives of human actions and displays the consequence of circumstances, which operates most powerfully on the destinies of the human being. History is very, very important, family. So we can't be lackadaisical, this mindset that we should forget about this and forget about that and not live in the past. No one is living in the past. And I always find it interesting that it is the black community, it is black people that you hear raising this talking point or subscribing to this kind of thinking that we should forget about certain histories. No, sir, no, ma'am, not on this podcast, because our brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey said these words. He said, history is the landmark by which we are directed into the true course of life. A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. In fact, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan made a contribution to the importance of history when he said history carries a light that attracts us to it. Because when a people know what was, they know what is, and they are prepared for what is yet to come. History is our guide. When someone takes away from us our history, they take away from us our guide. And in taking away from us our guide, we become a lost people. Don't you know that's how the weather is forecast? They look at historical models. They look at the history. They make an assessment of what's happening now, and they forecast what weather will be like in that 5-day forecast that you like to look at. They predict what the weather is going to be based on current conditions and previous weather patterns. So, brothers and sisters, of course, they use some modern technology with Doppler and radar and all of those things. But the point is, history is very, very important. Even Pat Buchanan said in his book, The Death of the West, if you want to destroy a people, you sever their roots. In other words, disconnect them from their history. And this is why we see what we see in our communities, because our people, and particularly our young people, are all but completely disconnected from what has happened to us just in our recent history. 20 years ago, our young people don't know what happened, let alone 150, 200, 300, or 400 years ago, because it's not being taught in public schools. It's not being discussed at dinner tables in our communities, because really the truth of the matter is most of us in our communities don't even have a dinner table, let alone sit and have a discussion about the importance of history at that table. So, brothers and sisters, somebody has to pick up the banner. Someone has to accept the responsibility. Someone has to try. Kind of remind me of the song that Marvin Gaye used to sing when he said, who's willing to try to save our babies who are destined to die if we don't do something to change what is happening in our communities? Well, it's about 7:29. We are expecting to hear from our guest this evening, Reverend Harris. She should be calling me momentarily. Excuse me. And we will get the
Tony
conversation.
Burton.
And there it is right there, boy, right on cue. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Reverend Harris, is that you? Hold on a second, let me get you in. There it is. Is that you, Reverend Harris?
Yes, it is.
All right, there we have her. She is on. Let us give her a round of applause. Yes, ma'am. Reverend Harris, I do not take lightly the fact that you graciously accepted this invitation to come and be on our humble podcast. And let me thank you once again for accepting the invitation to come on to our podcast. Brothers and sisters, this is Reverend Leona Harris. She is the director of the Ida B. Wells Museum, located at 220 Randolph Street in Holly Springs, Mississippi. Reverend Harris, she is a passionate, outspoken, and dedicated executive director of that museum, and it's a cultural center of African American history as well, there in Marshall County, Holly Springs, Mississippi. She was born in Holly Springs, Mississippi, and she retired to Holly Springs, Mississippi. She's did some work all over the country. She's been to Africa. She is a treasure trove of history and information, And I think we would serve ourselves well to lend her our ear for the next few minutes. Is that all right with you all? I'm sure it's all right with her. Sister Harris, how you feeling this evening?
I feel excellent, excellent.
Okay, let us begin. I told the people about you, but tell them about, tell our audience about you. Kind of introduce yourself, get a little bit more of your history with the Ida B. Wells Museum and just in general in your travels and your experiences and what you have done and the work you've done. Okay,
well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation, asking me to be on the podcast again this year, and I was delighted, happy to say yes. Well, first I can just say my name is Leona Harris, and I was born here in Holly Springs, Mississippi. I lived I lived part of my life in Mississippi, and I had to leave, I guess I maybe about 15 or 16 years of age, I had to leave to go to Chicago to take care of my sister. Mm-hmm. And that's when my life began to change, because I was born and reared here in the country, out in the country, a long way from town. And I call myself a grandmother child, because my grandmother was the one that was directing me and blessing me to behave myself and all.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when I went to Chicago, my sister was ill, because, back in the day when a family member got ill or something happened, it was our responsibility to go and see about it and make sure everything was okay. Yes. And so I was the one that designated to do that. And so when I went to Chicago, I stayed there with my sister until she got well. And then I said, well, I'm on my way back home, and I will see you when you come down. He said, you cannot go back. You stay here. I said, no, I'm not going. What am I going to stay in Chicago for? She said, you said that you wanted to work, and you're in school. You want to be in school. So if you stay here, you can work and go to school. So I took her up on that. Yes, I said, okay, I guarantee you that. So Monday I went and found a job. Tuesday I went and registered, not in that order, but pretty much right back one behind the other. And so when I enrolled in school, I enrolled, I think the school was Wilson at the time. It was named Wilson Junior College.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was there. At first, I took a couple of classes. The first class I took was around women's life. Mm-hmm. And I really got bored with it, because it was about James Stanton and all of them suffragist people, and I couldn't stand them.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I was invited. Then I went to my humanities class. In my humanities class, this professor did like all professors do. You all introduce yourself and tell us a little something about yourself. And so I introduced myself. And when I introduced myself, I said I was from Holly Springs, Mississippi. I was always so proud of Holly Springs. And this professor, she said, oh, you're from Ida B. Wells' hometown. I said to myself, so what? I didn't know about no Ida B. Wells. So what?
Yes, ma'am.
Big deal. But at the end of the class, the lady came to me. Her name was Margaret Burroughs. She came to me and talked to me, introduced herself, and told me she invited me to her home. Mm-hmm. She wanted to show me some of the things that she and her husband and community was doing, and she would like for me to come visit with her. So I did. When I went there, she and her husband and people in the community was working on a project, which at that time was the formation of the DeSalvo Museum. Okay. Now, the DeSalvo Museum is the first African American museum in this country.
Okay.
So I was a student at Kennedy King, and I was so elated to be able to join this team. And most of these people, I learned a little later, most of those people that I was surrounded with, these artists and teachers and professionals, these were people known that came out of this WPA period, which I didn't know what the WPA period was and that like that, but I found out later on. it was a program that the federal government had put in place to help to save the art and creativities of African Americans from, in their communities.
Yes, ma'am.
And so right next door to the DeSalvo Museum was the Community Art Center. So then I got all this exposure to all of these great people. These people like Arthur Davis, Ruby Dee, Elizabeth Catlett, and just, and they were so happy to have young people around to work. And boy, they put me to work, and don't think I didn't go to work, because I did. I even had an opportunity when I got on a program at the school. I think it was a work study program, and the teachers was asking some young people to go to Africa and Europe to study some of the educational systems in other countries and learn something about other people.
Yes,
and I was one of the first one to raise my hand because I was interested in knowing something about Africa in particular. And so anyway, I had an opportunity to go not only to Africa, but also to Europe. And I got kind of frightened at first because my colleagues there, the other students, were making fun of me, saying that I was going to meet up and I was going to be sorry that I went and so on and so on. So being a grandmother child, I didn't let nobody know that I was getting scared. I decided to come up and talk with my grandmother about it and ask her, what did she think? And she told me, she said, oh, yeah, that's good. I want you to find out something for me. Yeah, come on, what can I find? So, I know I couldn't find out nothing for Grandma. What did she want to know about Africa? But she told me, she said, well, she had been told that that was the home of Black people. And she said, see if I could find out if that's true.
Wow.
And of course, when I went, one of the early countries that we were in, and of course we went on tours and what have you, was Ghana. And we went to visit Elmina Castle.
Wow.
And that just blew my mind because they had encouraged me before I left. Now, you make sure you get pictures and what have you. So I guess I had 1,000 slides and photographs and tape recorder, my notebook and my camera. I was just loaded down because I was going to get all the pictures I could get.
Yes,
and so, in any case, having the first tour of Elmina Castle, it just blew my mind.
Wow!
Because the conductor, the tour guide, he just told us how he was not a castle. They named Elmina Castle, but actually it was a dungeon. It was just terrible.
Oh my!
And
God.
they walked us through this place, and dark, cold, just horrible. And so, in any case, he let us know that the Europeans had built this castle there on the Atlantic Ocean, and the whole purpose of the building that castle there on the Atlantic Ocean was for the ships to come in and pick up cargo, human cargo,
right?
And park. And once they get the castle full, they would go out into the villages, out into the homes, and just capture people and put them in these, bring them back and put them in these dungeons. And when it got stuck to the rim, then the ship would pull in, and they would be loaded on the ship and brought to the United States.
Wow!
So in any case, through the whole duration, the tour guide, he was telling us, why he was built there, when he was built,
Yes,
and this was the part of the slave trade, and they would keep those people there, house them people there like animals until the ships come in. When the ships come in, then they would take them and stuff them into the boat, and a lot of them, some made and some didn't, because some people would rather die
Yes,
than
ma'am.
because once they found out about the slave trade, what was going on, they didn't want that journey. And so many people, jumped out there and then let the sharks eat them up before they would come to this country
Yes,
and to
ma'am.
be enslaved. And so, anyway, that's where I got my start. But to make a long story short, when I got back to Chicago, I fulfilled my responsibility by giving a report to the school that had sponsored my trip, and I also did lectures to in slideshow. I call it an illustrated lecture.
Yes, ma'am.
To the high schools there, and when I got that done, I headed for Holly Springs, and
So
I
you
didn't
go
stop.
home.
I didn't stop till I got to Grandma's house because I wanted to tell Grandma, you were right.
Wow.
You're absolutely right. And so I did a slideshow here in Holly Springs of my first visit.
Do you still have it?
Huh?
Do you still have that slideshow?
In bits and pieces. I don't have the full show because you know what? I didn't know that if I did not preserve them in some kind of way, that they would just disintegrate.
Okay.
So you lose the pictures. Some of them is pretty good. Some of them not. No.
Right.
Some I have some, but not like it was because,
Yes,
like I said, when I looked at my slides, they had started to fade away.
Right.
And
Okay.
also, I had tapes in the same way, but some of them I was able to see because once I came back home and started doing some activity here, I hooked up with some of the professors at Russ College, and they transferred some of my tapes into CDs and things like that. So some of that I still have.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But in any case, the whole thing is that the children came down, and then the adults came. They wanted to see. So once, so that was the show. Everybody enjoyed it, and they enjoyed it so much they came. They asked me, "So when are you coming back home? When you come back home? We want you to do another slideshow." Well, now I'm loading up with slides now.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
in any case, what I did was I would come down every 2 weeks or once a month or what have you, and start showing slides about my trip to Africa and Europe.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so what happened is that one of the people that was working with me, helping me put this together, said to me, you know what, now look, we need a name for ourselves because now we're not spending no more than $75 or $100 or something like that for food and refreshment.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's $500. What you gonna do with the rest of the money? We need to be able to give account of what we're doing and so on. So why don't we just come up with a name so you can say this group is inviting you to come. So at first we were just putting out there a slideshow gonna be held so time. That was it. So so when this guy said we needed a name for ourselves, then, the first thing came to my mind was how ignorant I was when I was at college.
Yes, ma'am.
When Dr. Burroughs said, "Oh, you from Ida B. Wells' hometown." And I sat there and said, "Oh, so what?" So I said then, when they asked about this name, I thought to myself, I said, now, if I didn't know, somebody else in Holly Springs might not have known Ida B. Wells. So
Wow.
I made the suggestion that we name our organization, our group, Ida B. Wells. And so also I remember a professor that was here, well known, that I used to watch all the time. And so his name was, well, I won't call him his name, but anyway, at that particular time, some people got the idea, well, they just trying to make some money. So, so we dropped that name, but still worked with this person, on this person, about this person, rather.
Yes, ma'am.
And so what happened was, that's how the Ida B. Wells Culture Center and Ida B. Wells Museum was formed, because of the fact that we just thought it was a good idea, since I didn't know and I made the suggestion, and that's what they accepted.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
so that's how I got involved.
So that's how it all got started, huh? That's how it all got started.
We just wanted everybody to know that there was a person from Holly Springs, Mississippi, named Ida, was born and reared here.
Yes, ma'am. And you know, Sister Harris, you know,
yes, sir.
I can tell, you know, and the audience is listening. What I'm hearing from you, sister, is a outpouring of information, you know, that does not get heard often because, unfortunately, dear sister, the narrative of our history is under the control of someone else. And you, what you were saying led me to ask you this question, and I want to ask you this question. Why is it? What is it about us or about history in general in America where an Ida B. Wells, she's not as prominent or prominently mentioned as a historical figure? When you learn, because I've learned about her and I still read when I come across stuff, what this sister did and the time that she did it is absolutely remarkable. Most men would not have tried to do what Sister Ida B. Wells did out of field. Why do you think that she's not as prominent as a historical figure, you know, who fought for human rights, not just human rights, she fought for women's rights, and she also fought for justice for black people. Why do you think she's not as prominent as a King or a Rosa Parks or a Malcolm X or Marcus Garvey? Why do you think that is?
Well, it was a concrete effort to keep the legacy of Ida B. Wells hidden. Because one of the things that happen is that when a person is introduced to someone or something, they learn from it, basically. Ida B. Wells' life and her legacy is more or less hid. She was a prolific anti-lynching crusader, women's suffragist, journalist, founder of the NAACP. Don't be talking about Ida B. Wells.
Yeah, I know that. They don't even talk about her much.
No, not much. No, not like they should. And she was born here in Holly Springs, July 16th. Now, when she wrote her autobiography, the first thing Ida B. Wells said, I was born in Holly Springs, Mississippi. And most times, people just didn't pay attention to Mississippians.
Right.
Nothing good supposed to come out of Mississippi. So
That's
it was not so difficult to keep her hidden. And especially when we today are using her life as a roadmap to get to our next stage of life and living. Right. She have already fought the fight that we are facing today. She basically single-handedly, she did it.
That's
she
right.
didn't give in. She didn't give up. She continued to fight, and even today,
yes, ma'am.
People talk about her as a truth teller.
That's right. And you know, it's interesting, Miss Harris, that you mentioned how Mississippi is looked upon. I have a saying relative to Mississippi. Mississippi, among black people, among people in general, but even among our own, Mississippi is kind of like the Sealy. As Sealy was on The Color Purple, Mississippi is to the black community. She's not seen as that attractive sister, but the thing about Sealy, she was the spark plug of the family. And Mississippi is the blackest state in the country. In fact, 56%, according to some census numbers, 56% of black America lives in the southern states. And the most populous state where black people are concerned is the state of Mississippi. And I heard Honorable Louis Farrakhan said some of the strongest leadership of our people will come out of Mississippi because that's where we suffered the worst. And from that kind of suffering will come the strongest of those of us who lead. And I see and hear that in you, because one thing I'm learning about you, Sister Harris, you're going to get your story told and you're going to get your message out regardless. But I got another question for you.
Yes, sir.
About Miss Wells, about in 2023. What, how can I say this? I'll say it like this. I'm looking at the question, but now all of a sudden I want to reword it. I'll just ask it the way I got it written. Why is it important that we collectively not allow the legacy of Ida B. Wells to die, or its narrative to be taken over by those who really don't love her? Because you see people want to come in, you know, and I've been hearing that from you. People want to come in and do certain things, but their motives are not necessarily the best motives. Why is it important that we not allow those kinds of things to happen?
Well, because, you know, each individual was created for a reason and a purpose. And some of us realize our reasons and purpose, and some of us do not.
Right.
And the other thing is that it's when you have had to live during slavery time and be treated as not being human beings. I think about Harriet Tubman a lot in terms of that, how she was so strong and willing to not to adhere to slavery, that she wanted to be free. And not only did she want to be free, she wanted her people to be free.
That's right.
So something about when you see someone struggling and working to get a job done, and that job is worthwhile, it's something about it that makes you want to be a part of that too.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's why we, at one point, had some strong leaders during Ida's time, during Tubman's time, and what have you. Even during my time, I was put in right in the midst of some great leaders in this country. And when I was in Chicago, you know, we didn't have this thing like people are doing now. Right. Everybody in their own little thing. See, right. I think that what we're experiencing now, I call this is the negative part of the civil rights movement. Right. You know, Malcolm X had told us, say, now look, you're paraphrasing, but he said, look, we're not, black people are not ready for this civil rights situation that we're dealing with now. And he and Dr. King did not agree on it. But something happened to Malcolm when he went to Mecca. And when he went to Mecca, he found something that he came back to the state, and he wanted to reconcile with he and King and work together. Right. And so what happened was these two, both of them got assassinated. You know, right. Got killed. And so that ended that. We haven't had no leadership basically since then to really, I mean, I guess we were so disappointed in what had happened and kind of got in the mood of being kind of helpless. That's you know, right.
A lot of our leaders get. I'm sorry. I thought you were about done, but go ahead. Yeah, finish your point.
Everybody wants to do their own little thing. That's exactly. And so by this time, people have got into this whole new thing of doing their own thing, and didn't care about getting to the point where they don't care about each other. Right. But it's me, myself, and I kind of attitude. Yes, and it's still going on. And then this integration brought a serious indoctrination into our family. That's right. You know, say the question was raised, and I remember I was in Chicago at the time. They said, somebody asked the question, say, how did black people come out of slavery and accomplishing all of these things that they have accomplished during this civil rights era? Beaten down by dogs and all these things, all of these people, what has happened to them, Blue Connor and all of them, and I can't think of all of those people now that was here in the clubs, and right. Even our children. You know what? That's another thing too that gets me, is that how we totally, even today, ignore. I don't hear anybody basically talking about our children. Anytime I hear something about children, you know what they say? They say, oh, you know, so-and-so got shot, or he shot somebody, he stabbed this person, he done it. I don't want to hear that. Yes, I want to hear something good. Listen, let me share this with you right now. The Ida B. Wells Museum, this year, this is about the 6th or 7th year we've been trying this. This year, we're going to give out of Wells. We're going to give children, youth, and young adults festival. And I want everybody to hear this because I would love for them to bring your children out to this festival.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a festival of young people. Not too young. 5. If they can walk, bring them. If they cannot, that's okay. Mom, bring your baby because we're going to do some story time for these kids. Have some professionals who have written books about children. Then we still also going to have Humpty Dumpty sit on the wall. Pass it. See what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Read to our children so that they will, at a very early age, we didn't have no problem with education until we got integrated.
Yeah.
Once we got integrated, that's when we really started having some serious problems. Because everybody wanted to be Shakespearean.
That's right.
And they didn't realize that he was a black man, but
Yep, and that's why we use the axiom, or I start this program by saying, he who gives you the diameter of your knowledge or prescribes for you the circumference of your activity. And when we stop educating ourselves and start allowing our slave masters' children to educate us, that's when the decline in the quality of life among us as a people began to manifest itself. Because as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us, if a man ain't going to treat you right, he's certainly not going to teach you right. So you're absolutely correct. And when we begin to allow them to educate us, when we were separate, when we had our own 60 cities and towns, more than that really during the Reconstruction era that I talked about at Juneteenth, black people were approaching their zenith in terms of intellect, in terms of ability to govern. Our cities and towns were more sophisticated than theirs, and out of envy, many of those towns were destroyed. And to this day, they do not want for us to seek that goal ever again, to be self-sufficient. And that's why all of this come together stuff, we really need to think about that, because all the folk who holler, let's come together and work together, are not necessarily interested in working in a way that it'll benefit us as a people. Yes, ma'am.
No, it's not. They don't. Many do not intend to. You take Frederick Douglass now.
That's right.
Now, Frederick Douglass was a great leader. He was educated by, when he was educated, his early reading, he was taught to read, to write, and Caucasians was working with him.
Right.
But he didn't lose his identity. You know what I mean?
Right.
But later on, what happened is that once we get a little something going, we get our put our whatever on our shoulders and think that we the best going.
Yeah, we get a little money. We get a little money, man.
Money and all those kinds of things, and forget about the real essence of why we are doing what we are doing.
The comfort.
And so, yeah,
that's what happens. They make us comfortable, Ms. Harris, and they give us the amenities of life, and all of the comforts, the creature comforts, the big house, the car, and all of the amenities of life, and all of the nice things, and you get kind of comfortable, and you kind of forget the struggle. So and it's by design. It's very strategic in how it is done, and you fund the person. That's what they did. If you pay attention to what happened to hip hop, if you look at all of those artists that were on the cutting edge of social change, your Queen Latifahs, and a good number of them, all of them didn't go that way. Like KRS-One didn't go that way. Chuck D and Public Enemy. If you look at them today, most of them are prominent on TV, and they've been given this and given that, and the struggle is not real for them anymore. So it's kind of like they just move on, And I heard a prominent brother say, I'm not going to call his name, but a prominent brother that I respected, that's making a whole lot of money now. And he said the best thing you can do for poor people and black people that are poor is not be one of them. I was like, wow, that's deep, And we just kind of forget about the struggle. But I have a couple more questions for you, but I wanted you to finish what you were saying.
Well,
or did I break your thought?
Yeah, it kind of, but in any case, the whole thing is that African Americans have got to be able to, as human beings, appreciate themselves.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need somebody else to tell you who you are.
That's right.
And where you come from. You know, that starts at home. You can also learn from others. My whole contention about this whole situation is that, you know what, all we need to do is just respect each other. When I was in Chicago, and even when I first came back home, we were all working together and so happy. You know what I mean? We when we put with the Ida B. Wells project here in Holly Springs, we put together a coalition of men, women, and got the United States government and officials here to name a post office in 1990 in honor of Ida B. Wells. Right. Nobody has no disagreement on that. I mean, from all walks of life, you know, we were able to pull these people together and come up with the Ida B. Wells local post office here in Holly Springs now. But now we don't appreciate each other.
That's right. That's right.
We don't have respect for each other. You know, we pretend. If some of the people try to work with you or you try to work with them or whatever, they're only in there to get what they can get.
That's right. Rugged individualism is what we call that. People are so individualistic.
It's not only individualistic, they also will being this individualistic, they take what you're doing and make it theirs.
Come on now. That's right.
In Chicago, they would tell you, you do not mess, and I thought that was for everybody. You do not mess with other people's writings, other people's ideas. You have to quote these folks.
That's right.
But people here in this era,
they'll steal it.
They would write a book about you and then say that. But in any case, you live, you learn.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's a new way of life. And I think that our young people of today, young people that's coming up today, some of them ready, some of them not ready. And some of them do not want to be bothered with old folks like me. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to hang in here. I don't mean it's my job what I'm doing right now. But wherever I be, because I'm going to take a break. I'm going to surprise you all.
Yes,
I'm going to take a break coming up. We've been about 7 years trying to get somebody to take my place. And something every time something happens, road get pulled from under my feet and all that. But I've already talked to my board and told them that we're making a change this year.
Yes, ma'am.
First and foremost, I need to be out in the community, getting a chance to see and work with the people in the community. I've been in this museum so long. And then he realized until I had to go to Florida not too long ago to take care of a nephew of mine that I was totally isolated just Ida B. Wells Museum and African American history. I need to go to the community now and share some of these things with the young people, and I'm especially concerned with early childhood education. That's my major, early childhood education, with a mind in anthropology. I want to write a couple more books.
Yes, ma'am.
Share my story. Because look, our young people have, in my thinking, have a more of a challenge today than I ever dreamed of having.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's so much that has to be done because, look, I don't think anybody in this country would disagree that we have made so many mistakes.
A whole bunch of them.
So many things that have gone wrong that we are responsible for fixing it.
That's right.
And we got to see America on its knees right now. But I can tell you, and I'm not telling you something I read, but I'm telling you something I have experienced And I've traveled not only in Africa, but I've traveled in Europe. And I can tell you, there's no country in the world greater than America. Even though we are in the worst condition that we ever been in.
Yes, ma'am.
But we are coming out.
Yes, ma'am.
We are coming out, and we're gonna, the old and the young.
Yes, ma'am.
Is gonna end up working together, making America to be as strong as it always has been.
Yes, ma'am. And on that note, sis, we're gonna take a break, Sister Harris. On that note, because I got to play some commercials, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna have two. Don't you go nowhere now. We're gonna come back, and we're gonna have a couple of more questions, and then we're gonna start getting ready to descend out of the heavens and get ready to land this plane. We'll be right back after these commercial announcements.
These things gonna change. Y'all don't want to teach history in school because our open enemy look just like you in the integrated classroom. How that look? But white folks killing blacks in the history books, killing us then, kicking, choking the steel. Now insert the ghost of Emmett Till. For real? These devils are the same way today. Caught red-handed but still get away. Really?
It is a will, it's a way, it's a way, it's a way. We finna get it either way.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
The Urban Indulgence Bath and Body Boutique. At Urban Indulgence, we pride ourselves on offering quality, effective skincare. Handcrafted with plant-based, skin-loving ingredients, our soaps and body butters will give you luxurious lather and ultimate moisture. Experience the Urban Indulgence at 3314 Poplar Avenue in Memphis, 3 blocks west of Poplar Plaza, or shop with us online at theurbanindulgence.com. Theurbanindulgence.com.
Taste the difference. Taste Supreme. Enjoy our 100% natural Supreme spring water with natural calcium and magnesium, but zero fluoride and zero chloride. Our bottles are BPA free. Order yours today. Call us at 800-573-8033. That's 800-573-8033. Or visit us online at www.supremespringwater.com. Live supreme. Be supreme. Drink supreme. Supreme Spring Water. 801 Joseph E. Boone Boulevard, Northwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30314. What's your source for truth in news reports?
Justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Where do you turn for non-corporate driven news that's fair and balanced?
Don't shoot. Don't shoot. Don't shoot.
Subscribe to the Final Call News, your #1 free and independent news source that delivers hard-hitting national and international news coverage of today's political, economic, and social issues. To subscribe to local home delivery, call us at area code 662-252-8999. That's 662-252-8999. Visit our website at www.finalcall.com.
10,000 fearless on the move.
And we're back live here at the 10K Fearless Tri-State Podcast. Again, I am your host, Brother Abdul Shaheed Muhammad. We have on the line with us our guest, the director of the Ida B. Wells Museum in Holly Springs, Mississippi. It's located at 220 Randolph Street, right there in Marshall County. Our sister, Reverend Leona Harris. We have her still on the line. We're going to get back to the conversation. Sister Harris, you're still there, right?
Yes, I am.
I knew you didn't go anywhere. Listen, I want to ask you, because we're getting to the latter part of the program, and we're going to be closing out. I got really two more questions that I would ask you to respond to. How can we in 2023, because after I ask you this question, I want to know what you got coming up, because I'm having you on early this year because I want you to tell us about the festivities that are coming up next month. But for right now, I want to ask, how can we in 2023 and going forward use the remembrance of our heroes and our heroines of history to inspire the young people of today to get involved? What can we do to turn this thing around, as you were alluding to before we went to the break?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think all of us can play a role. And I think that those of us who have a desire and a commitment to be faithful and do a job, excellent job, for not only for our young people, but for all people of the world. Because people's going to be watching and looking at us, what we're going to do and how we're going to come out and do better and do what we need to do.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think it is that we all need, first of all, we need to, number one, is to be able to respect each other.
Absolutely. I think that is the number one thing.
Yeah, I don't think that African Americans have gotten to the point that we don't respect each other. It's me, myself, and I.
Right.
Our Caucasian colleagues, the same way. We don't respect each other. And we don't work together. Now, I'm not talking about something that somebody said or told me. I'm talking about my experience, what I have experienced. And I can give you an example. When I first came back home, I was just so elated to come back home. And I was so excited because I had something to give and offer. And I knew that what I was doing, the people wanted what we was doing. And so we all teamed up together to get where we are right now. So now, like for instance, Ida Wells Museum, we started out in what you call a Mason Hall.
Yes, ma'am.
The one-room building. Now we are in, I think we got 15 rooms here, upstairs and downstairs. Large lawn, yard, I would say well staffed in terms of volunteers. We have exhibits, incredible exhibits. The kinds of things that we have been able to hear is that the National Museum of African American History in 2016, when they was ready to open their doors, they contacted us here in Holly Springs.
Wow, did they?
And asked us, oh yes, and asked us, would we be a part and take a part in their opening? And we said yes, 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 and they sent us pictures, prints, and so on that we could do that. We didn't have the money to do it, but let me tell you, we had a strong board, and we went and talked with them and said we need to do this, and we was able to go and ask the city to provide and help us with it. In other words, we were working together. You know what I mean? Get things done, not just for me, but for the community and for the United States. And then as we was working and going on for the world, because we have people in here, Japan, Milan, Italy, London, from all over the country, all over the world, that come here doing research, talking about, we're doing a documentary on the life of Ida B. Wells.
Yes. I ran across a guy, a woman, what was it, James Meredith. We were out selling the final call, right, where we always do, right there at the town square. And here comes James Meredith walking through. And he had a lady with him. She had a camera, and the camera was rolling, and they were doing his documentary. And Holly Springs, and I don't think we as black people, dear sister, we don't give proper regard, respect, or due estimation to the value of people like yourself that has information. And I notice, sister, when someone gives an opportunity for this information to be disseminated on a platform, I notice it always comes pouring out. Because I talked to James Meredith. He's doing his documentary, and this man stopped and talked to us for 15 or 20 minutes because he has so much to say, and he has so, and I think we do ourselves a disservice as young people to not be patient with people like yourself and absorb what you have for us. You know, it kind of reminds me of what Teddy Pendergrass said in his song. He said, "Wake up everybody and make the older people well, because they're the ones who suffer and catch all the hell. They don't have too long before their judgment day. Let us make them happy before they pass away." And what all they want to do is pass on what they have learned and experienced. But my final question for you is, I want you to tell us what's coming up next month. Because you were telling me on the phone all of the things that are going to be going on for the 161st. This will be the 161st anniversary, birth anniversary celebration of our dear sister heroine, Ida B. Wells. Let us know what's going on for next month.
Exactly. Well, we have our opening celebration will be July the 14th. We're having a festival weekend. And usually in the past, before the virus hit, we used to have 3 days. We hope that it'll be going into 3 days. That third day is usually when we have gotten a church involved to provide breakfast and so on that Sunday before the Ida B. Wells families return back to their destination. So what we have planned this year, I mentioned it earlier, that we're having a children, youth, and young adult festival.
Okay.
And that festival will begin July the 14th, 10 a.m. And we're going to have the opening celebration here between the Ida B. Wells Museum and the Eddie L. Smith Multipurpose Center. Now, some people say behind the Multipurpose Center, and it would be also behind the Ida B. Wells Park.
Right.
So that's where it's going to begin. So we have a lot of activities planned. It's a great week.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to have we're going to have arts and crafts. We're going to have this huge water slide, and of course, we will have the splash party. We're going to be open there in back of the Eddie L. Smith building.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to have prizes and giveaway, games, refreshments. We're going to have artists, adult artists that will be helping with the 1 hour instruction or arts and craft, not so much as a craft, but art class for the young people. Some young people are interested in the art, some not. Some can be introduced to it.
Right.
We have one of the local artists, one of the retired teachers from this community, provided us with all kinds of art supplies, charcoal things, drawing, spray paint, face paint, all kinds of art supplies that we have on hand that young people can come out and look. And when they finish with their work, we're going to ask them to leave it here at the museum so that we can have at least a month or two exhibit of their work. Because young people, as I mentioned earlier, we do not give the attention that they need. Now, look, I've been around a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have worked with young people a long time. And one of the things that I find that we do not lend credibility to where it is due. Now, you mentioned about Mr. The Civil Rights Brothers.
James Meredith.
You mentioned about James Meredith. During his time, and I recall that reading about it and seeing films about how the young people, now, we don't talk about this. Even African Americans don't talk about it. Well, the reason I know is that this is about the 7th time that we've been trying to do this. But I'm going to make a suggestion that all of us need to do. You need to stop, look, and listen. Look at the film that they did, these children in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
We could never have had a march on Washington if it had not been for the children. Do you know that that is the biggest secret in the world?
No, ma'am.
I dare you to go and Google the Children March. Get the film. Show it.
Wow.
You will see what happened, how these children, and nobody talk about it now. There's some shooting up going on. They would have been all over the place.
Of course it would have.
Okay. And, but listen, these young people, they was beaten. They was hosed down with these hose. They was the dogs, put the dogs on them. Put them in jail. These kids in Mississippi was
they were juvenile. Some of them were preteens.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Preteens. You're talking about 10, 11, and 12 years old.
You remember those three kids signed at Dr. King's school later on. Not his school, church, I mean. How they murdered those kids.
Yes, ma'am.
I think they blew them up with bombs or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just was devastating. It was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that we need to start to uplifting our young people.
Yes, ma'am.
Not only our young people, but we also need to start to, you know, my grandmother used to say all the time. She says, don't wait for somebody else to tell you something, how good you are, how this and that. That's one of the reasons I can take and deal with as much as I do now. It's because my grandmother used to tell me, she said, don't worry about that.
Yes, ma'am.
God is watching you. He know what you're doing. You know, always do what's right and do your best. That's what's important.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm saying is that our young people, who, if you were to just take a few hours, minutes, or whatever, and just study what some of the young folks have done in the civil rights movement for all of us.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
sacrifice that these kids have made. In fact, I saw a lady on TV last night. She was a lady, I guess she must be, anyway, she's a full-fledged elder person now.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
she was talking about her interest into this, into the school in Arkansas. I think it was in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we don't say things about what our young people have done.
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
the other thing is that we have a room here at the Ida B. Wells Museum, and we call it the local genealogy room.
Mm-hmm.
And in this local genealogy room, we talk about local folks
Mm-hmm.
and highlight local folks. Why? Because African American, I don't care what you do, you just live and die and forget it.
We just kind of live. We come through and make a contribution, and it goes for the most part unnoticed.
That's it.
And unrecognized.
And so what we have to do is give our young people the reason. Because I remember as a kid growing up, I used to love to hear this lady that used to babysit us. And this lady used to say, "Okay, now you all get off the street now because it's time for Pryor to come home." Now this Pryor they was talking about was a professional principal at one of the schools here in Hollis Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's supposed to get back so you can look and see this guy. And his name was W.T. Sims.
Mm-hmm.
And when they tell us to get off the street, you know, I would get behind a hedge bush.
Yes, ma'am.
And just to peek to see what is this person got going so much that everybody have to clear the way for him to come down the street. And anyway, just to make a long story short, I used to watch this guy come to his school so elegantly dressed in tall, handsome, Stacey Adams shoes, shining like new money, book satchel. I mean, he just had it going.
Yes, ma'am.
And people would talk about this guy, just talk about who he was and what he was and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, that's one of the things that we do not sometimes do not have the opportunity that young people can see us at our best.
And that's that's the problem, Sister Harris. There are no examples like that present in the community like it was. Even when I was young, you saw brothers that were professional men that dressed a certain way, and it inspired us as young men. Unfortunately, the predominance of what you see in our communities nowadays in terms of images, you don't see the image of the professional black man like you did years ago. You see these images of sagging pants, and this is not to take a swipe at our brothers, but those are the that's the predominance of the images that are young people, and young people are going to do what they see, not what they hear people say, and that's just a reality.
And that's the message I'm trying to get over to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that young people's observing. Now, they don't have to be 15 or 12. If you have a little girl or boy age 1 and 2, they are watching you.
That's right. And they will do everything they see us do.
If they see us do, they're going to do.
That's exactly it. That's it.
That's how they learn. So we got to be careful in terms of what we say, what we do, and how we behave.
That's right. That's right.
Because somebody is watching us.
That's
and
right.
those little ones are the major ones that's watching us, trying to find their way in life.
That's right. Sister Harris, look, this has been we're right at the end of the program. We got about 3 minutes left. And I can tell you had some more to give. You had plenty more to give. That's why I wanted to get you on early, because before July 14th and 15th, we want to get you on again to give us an update on the festivities and all of the things that's going to be happening. I'll only need you about for 30 minutes that time to tell us what a full line of events that's going to be happening for the 14th and the 15th. But tonight, we want to thank you for coming on, and let's give her a round of applause for coming on and sharing her time with us. We certainly appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on and be with us. Well, Sister Harris, we want to stay in touch with you. And like I told you when we talked, what we can do to aid and assist you in helping put on the event. I know last year we did some things for you. We created a slideshow for you and some other things. So whatever we can do, if we can accommodate you, just give us a call, okay?
Well, you know what? I've already contacted some of the sisters to get things kind of started. So I will be contacting you all because
yes, ma'am.
We always strive to put together the very best.
Yes, ma'am. And let me give you a new sister, the sister that you probably contacted last year. She is back in Memphis, so I'll have a new just call me directly, and we'll put you in touch with the sisters that we will have assigned that's in Holly Springs still, that will assist you with whatever it is that you need, okay?
I will do that. Thank you so kindly. I really appreciate the support and the opportunity to be able to come on your podcast and share with you some of the things that we are doing. Thank you so appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am.
Be blessed.
Yes, ma'am. You too. And tell Sister Tony I said thank you as well, all right?
Okay, I will do. Tony is sitting right here listening. And
all right.
All right, then. Have a great night now.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There you have it, brothers and sisters. That was Sister Reverend Leona Harris, the director of the Ida B. Wells Museum. And, man, we thank her for coming on. She had a lot to share. When I talk to her, she just pours out so much, brothers and sisters. And we need to understand that sisters like that, that hold and been carrying the baton, trying to keep things going, searching for the person that will run the next leg of the race of liberation. She is looking for them. She clearly expressed that. So here at the 10K Fearless podcast, we're going to make sure that sisters like her are heard and supported. So we're going to do our part, Muhammad Study Group number 78A at 165 North Memphis Street, in supporting the Ida B. Wells 161st birth anniversary celebration. Look, we're going to give you a little music and we'll be right back to land this plane.
They gon' be like, who is this? I'm sorry, let me introduce myself real quick. I'm the one and only, no one can before me, and ain't nobody gon' be like me again. Listen, I'm the realest, rapping like it's Christmas, I'm gifted with it. We ain't gotta pretend, but you on my end, it won't leave a witness. I'm strictly business, we ain't gotta be friends, boy. Understand? Think twice when you come for the fam. Yeah, we taking shots when we come with this pen, loaded with the word and straight for your head. Ain't no questions about it, you know I'm the man. Ain't no maybe, probably your boy in the man. Been a level up, I'm just trying to expand. Yeah, I'm still 100, worth 100 grand, worth 100 mil. Trying to cop a Lambo. I ride through with the lamb, though. Yo, I came up from Little Black Sambo into rocking these ops like I'm Rambo. From the little engine that could to wish a nigga would take the best rapper around and leave him in the woods. Think of sweet, have him running in the hood. No need to explain what should be understood. Take a loss. I'm the boss, Rick Ross. Yeah, I paid the price, and you know that it costs. I thank God that my God doesn't have an exhaust. So I'm way too hard. All these rappers are soft. I'm a beast. I'm the coldest. I cannot defrost on these beats. I'm exploding. I know I'm the bomb. Undefeated. A problem these niggas can't solve. Yeah, you vegan. I'm bringing the beef when we meet. Peeping the trees and don't think I don't see it. Just know if I said it, then know that I mean it. They said I'm ashamed, so I got me a peaches. I'ma keep coming. I ain't never leaving. The flow, yes, I own it. These niggas just leasing. Number one, and I know that they pissed. They gon' be like, who is this?
I'm sorry, let me introduce myself real quick. I'm the one and only, no one came before me, and ain't nobody gon' be like me again. Listen, I'm the realest, rapping like it's Christmas, I'm gifted with it, we ain't gotta pretend. Put you on my hit list and won't leave no witness, it's strictly business, I ain't trying to be friends, boy. Understand? Keep up if you think that you can. Yeah, we run as gold medals, we Olympians. We consistent, Sam, I am the screen exam. Can't compete in the least, boy, you know I'm gon' win. I'm the issue, just gassing, you just break away. Yeah, you fake, boy, you plastic. I'm real as it gets, supernatural, I'm magic. You simply a trick, you chicken, boy, how you get pumped by your chick? I'm making moves, you just moving your lips. Don't care if we blood, cause you act like you crip. Our family tree more like a pile of sticks. I'm with Jesus like Peter, yeah, I'm trying to fish, but see, we ain't the same. You more like Peter Griff. I'm speaking in tongues, you just speak with a list. Ain't no more to say, man, I'm pleading the fifth. Yeah, I am the legend, the myth, I'm the best in a minute. LeBron ain't the only one that can got hit. I'm a dove in the midst amongst all of these pigeons. My props, I'ma get them, my haters gon' give it. They live it, they mad cause I'm living. I'm eating this dinner time, 1 meal per evening. I know that my flow is unreal, it's deceiving. Oh, you ain't know what I'ma make you believe it. They did me like Spike Lee in my school days, but they gon' regret it in a few days. See me up in the sky when they stargaze. No cap, all black, all everything. Yeah, I was the one getting dissed. Now I'm at the top of their list, taking shots and I know that they pissed. They gon' be like, who is this?
I'm sorry, let me introduce myself real quick. I'm the one and only, no one came before me, and ain't nobody gon' be like me again. Listen, I'm the realest, rapping like it's Christmas, I'm gifted with it, we ain't gotta pretend. Put you on my hit list and won't leave no witness, it's strictly business, I ain't trying to be friends, boy.
10,000 fearless on the move.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Taste the difference. Taste Supreme. Enjoy our 100% natural Supreme spring water with natural calcium and magnesium, but zero fluoride and zero chloride. Our bottles are BPA free. Order yours today. Call us at 800-573-8033. That's 800-573-8033. Or visit us online at www.supremespringwater.com. Live supreme. Be supreme. Drink supreme. Supreme Spring Water. 801 Joseph E. Boone Boulevard, Northwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30314.
The Urban Indulgence Bath and Body Boutique At Urban Indulgence, we pride ourselves on offering quality, effective skincare. Handcrafted with plant-based, skin-loving ingredients, our soaps and body butters will give you luxurious lather and ultimate moisture. Experience the Urban Indulgence at 3314 Poplar Avenue in Memphis, 3 blocks west of Poplar Plaza, or shop with us online at theurbanindulgence.com. theurbanindulgence.com.
What's your source for truth in news reports?
Justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Where do you turn for non-corporate driven news that's fair and balanced?
No shoot. No shoot. No shoot.
Subscribe to the Final Call News, your #1 free and independent news source that delivers hard-hitting national and international news coverage of today's political, economic, and social issues. To subscribe to local home delivery, call us at area code 662-252-8999. That's 662-252-8999. Visit our website at www.finalcall.com.
10,000 fearless on the move.
And we are back, about to land this plane, and we're going to make it quick. Make sure, dear family, you heard the jingle, the Final Call newspaper. We are calling for 1,000 residents in the area of Holly Springs, Marshall County, Potts Camp, Victoria, Red Banks. We're looking for you all. Subscribe to the Final Call. We're looking for 1,000 subscribers. If you would like to subscribe to get home delivery of that great newspaper to your residence, give us a call at 662-252-8999, or you can write us at P.O. Box 517, Holly Springs, Mississippi, 38635. Make sure you support those who support us. Supreme Spring Water and the Urban Indulgence Bath and Body Boutique. Make sure you download the Final Call radio app, where you can hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan 24/7. Please be reminded, tomorrow night we will have our Muhammad Study Group 78 study class at 7:30 p.m., 165 North Memphis Street. And we'll be there again this Sunday at 10 o'clock a.m. with our Sunday message by yours truly, with the help of Almighty God. You are certainly invited to be there, 165 North Memphis Street, Sunday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. And join us again next week. Our guest will be our brother Hashim Hakeem Muhammad. You just heard him. That was him and Sister I can't pronounce her name. Sister Mecca. I'll just pronounce the last name. Sister Mecca will not be with him, but Brother Hashim Hakeem Muhammad will be our guest for next Thursday's edition of the 10K Fearless Tri-State Podcast. But until then, we're going to leave you tonight as we came before you with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.
10,000 fearless on the move.
Let's go. Deep in the delta where the willows grow, in the soil stained by the blood of my ancestors. Punch bowl voices call out to my soul for justice. The wicked will reap what they've sown. Spirit of Aziz is back on the rise. Soldiers in the delta kept it alive. Time to stand up, take our place in the sun. Understand the time and what must be done.
10,000 fearless on the move. 10K fearless. This is it. 10K fearless on the move. This is it. Sip.
Gotta make a move and take control. Have something we can call our own. So shine your light, help the people see that now is the time for us to be free. And if you're waiting on the pie in the sky, you better wake up fast. They told you a lie, cause big fields await the wide awake man. Elijah's got the master.
10,000 fearless on the move. 10K fearless. This is it. 10K 10K fearless on the move. Mississippi, sip. Injustice we've had enough. All of our divisions we're breaking up. Destiny has been calling us. The spirit of the Most High is guiding us.
See, the time is now. What you waiting on? Quit shooting your brothers. Put your gun down. Come on. They got a cage waiting for you if you keep that up. Early graves coming to you. From that, can't raise you up. Now, Sister Ida B and Fannie Lou, check them out and you'll know what to do. But if you really want your enemy to be alarmed, read the final call. Follow Farrakhan.
10,000 fearless on the move. 10K fearless. Mississippi. 10K fearless on the move. Mississippi. Sip. 10K fearless on the move. 10K fearless on the move. 10K fearless on the move. In Mississippi, Mississippi. 10,000 fearless on the move.